previously.
We've taken the hard top off. I'm going to take the dash out. Yeah, but it's looking a little bit dark now. My clutch is all in. Alright, just like that. All back together again now. Here we are again, guys. We're going to start doing the Mike Satur suspension kit as last mentioned. As you can see, I've fitted this side already just so I know how it goes. There was a couple of things that I needed to message Mike about which wasn't entirely clear, but he was quick to message back and tell me how to do it and what needed to be done, and obviously supplied photos as well. And again, he has got some YouTube videos on fitting these kits, but they are the older kits. I don't think he's got one of the Mark 7 kit. This is the latest Mark 7 kit. I think it's the last batch that he had for 2021. That he done a special deal on to get rid of the last 3 or 4 sets that he had. So I snapped one up, knowing that I'd want to do it anyway, and saved a couple £100 in doing it. So that was a bit of a bonus, really. But as I say, we fitted this one just so I know how it all goes together. We're doing it on the rear subframe, but the principle's the same on both left and right and front to back. The only thing you will need to do is you can fit the rears on the car, but the front you'll have to drop the subframe to get the box sections out the way to remove the upper arm pivot. So yeah, I'll just talk you through this one at the minute. So we've got the camber adjustment shims in here at the minute, given maximum camber, and then we'll get it down and see how that sits on the floor and put the camber gauge on, and then we can adjust that. Hence the reason none of these lock tabs are bent over as yet. Yeah, you have to obviously put the arm in and get this plate all mounted up, and then you have to drill 3 holes for, there's some extra bolts there, and there's one at the back as well which you need to do. But yes, relatively straightforward. I'll take you through doing it, and then hopefully that will give you more of a clear idea to how to fit these ones. The Mark 7 kit, you don't have to do any subframe modifications like you did on the older kits. You needed to cut a little bit of subframe out to make clearance for the arms, but this kit you don't, because it's got a pinch point which I'll show you on the other side kit which I've got laid out. So we've got the plate which you need to drill the extra holes for to mount the top of the shotgun. Got all the upper ball joint camber adjustments, and then you've got the shims to space out. That is a back spacer for that bolt hole there. Nice little bump stop. The upper arm all made out of stainless steel, and as you can see, they've actually pinched these in now where they used to go straight, so that then clears the wishbone, or the subframe, sorry. And he's actually done these with oil light bearings instead of your traditional grease. So I've opted for the upgraded stainless steel pivot point pin as well. So hopefully that will just be nicer. Hopefully it won't corrode as much as what it would with the steel pin in. and then obviously you've got your gas coilover shock, which is height adjustable and single dampen adjustable as well. We've got it wound right down at the minute to aid fit in this kit, because that is a bit of a tight squeeze to get your bottom ball joint or your bottom bush in, or if you get the bottom one in then get the top one in. I don't really know which is the easier way at the minute, because I start off with connecting the top and then trying to fit the bottom, and then I took the top out and then put it in the bottom and then tried to fit the top. The only thing we are missing is the billet alloy upper mount, which is here. So I have got it, just haven't unwrapped it. So I've got it set up over here. I've got all my tools ready. But the first thing I need to do is I need to clean out round these bolt holes and around this bush hole here of any powder coating, because it is a really tight, nice fit. So that means I need to get rid of all the powder coating from them areas. So I'll do that first, and then we'll get to fitting these upper arms in. Right, so I've got you set up. Hopefully you'll be able to see something. You'll have to excuse the glare on the light, because I'm in a dark place, the workshop, and I have got a work light above my head. So we're going to get on to fitting these upper arms now. Nice and simple, nothing too complicated about them. So you want to take your pin. I'll just put a smearing of engine oil on that, just so it's coated basically. Make sure your seal is on there as well as your pin and your end plate. I think that's it for that bit. So you want to get your arm as well. These are all marked by Mike himself, so right hand rear, you can't get it wrong. And what you want to do is you need to get your dust shields on the top of them. Which are these ones. Mike supplied these. These are genuine Rover ones. You've got to stretch them over the arm itself. It's a little bit difficult. It will go over. Right, so your two dust shields. Now you want to get your O-ring, and you want to sit it on top of there, and you want to get your washer with a groove on the inside like that, and hopefully you sort of like have to fiddle and hold it all in place, but you just slot that in there like that, and then you get your pin, making sure you got your seal on there of course, and slide it in. Be a little bit tight because you are sort of fighting the engine as such. But the old one came out okay. There we go. So you just need to make sure that your seal and your plate is still in the right position, and hopefully you can slot it through. And then on the end there you can see where it's poking through. It's just a washer and a nut. There you go. Simple as that. Now round the back here, you obviously got that lock and plate, So you need to make sure that your end cap and your bearing is in there nicely, and there's two 10mm bolts that hold that in place. Right, so the back one, it's got captive bolt in, or captive thread. You just need to feed that in. Just make sure it's nice and square. And the other front one here is a nut and bolt. And you just want to get that in so the plate is held into position basically. And then just put a little bit of tension on them. Now we can start winding these two nuts in here. Again, you ought to keep making sure that this is nice and free to move. So I'll just start doing a nip up on one end. That might turn the other end as well, because it is just a shaft. So we'll keep on going until it's there. We might need another spanner to hold it in place. Just now gripping up. And then we'll just have a spanner on the other end as we nip it up, both ends, like that. Just make sure that your arm is still nice and free, which it is. And then we'll get our torque wrench out. And we'll torque them to spec, which is 74 Newton meters. Just set our torque wrench up. just do the other nut on the other side as well. There we go. So that's all torqued up. Hopefully this will now be nice and free. There's a little bit of snagging in that. The other side is absolutely fine. I'm not sure I like that, so I'm going to take it apart and check everything and do it again. Right. Right. 74 Newton meters still. I have already torqued these up, but just to demonstrate the purpose. All I did is I took it out and put it back together again, and that's nice and free now, just as it should be. Find my Allen key. We'll undo this little screw here. In the middle of the screen now, look. Undo this little screw here. And this is where you oil the bearing. And Mike has said to me via the messages, SAE 30 oil, so that's what I've got in here. Had some left over from a classic car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime the end of, there we go, and stick it in the hole.
That's what she said.
And give it 2 squirts.
Oh, come on!
He said to me should be about 1 to 2 mil. So we'll give it a couple of squirts. That should be about 2, maybe a little bit more. And we'll just tighten that up. You don't need to go mad on that because you'll over crush the washer. Not any access. But now, yeah, all nice and free as it should be. So what we'll do now is we'll fit the bump stop. I have done up these 2 10 mils at the plate here. They were 10 Newton meters, factory torque setting. Stick our bump stop through. Again, just a little 10 mil nut. We drop it everywhere. Just whiz up with the gun. Don't have to go too mad because you whip the stud out the rubber mount, but that works nicely now. What's the next thing we can do? I think if we bring the hub up so the ball joint will come through here. So I'll just pause here and get all the stuff ready for that. Right, first thing to go on is a little square edge collar, and that just sits on top of the ball joint. And I've just got a bottle jack underneath, and we can jack the hub up to meet the arm then. see, it's a little bit taut, as in I don't want to sit square. The other side, I found that the ball joint was quite stiff, which that one is as well, because they are pretty nearly ball joints. So we're just going to try and see if we can dangle that in so it's nice and square, and then we can then start shimming it out. Alright, here we go. Got the 7 shims in now. If you want to count them, you can. There's no way you get an 8 in there. So after counting all the shims, they give you 30 shims, but 7 on each side is 28 shims, you know, in all 4 corners. So I guess they give you 2 spare ones just to be on the safe side, just in case you lose them, because I guess they're quite easy to lose. So yeah, that's it. We're giving it maximum camber at the minute, and then we'll adjust it accordingly as and when we need to. When we go to the alignment, when we say, well, we'll be setting up our own alignment, but I use next door's garage's ramp because it's got a nice new ramp, and it's got all the right float plates that the wheels sit on, so you get it nice and sorted then. But that'll be another video. So that's done there. So now we've got this plate here, which sits on here with 2 lock and bolts. Which are 10 mils, 10 mil heads. Do a 6 mil or M6 thread. But there's no torque settings for these, so I'm going to do it like what most of the M6 bolts are on an MGF, which is normally about 10 mil, 10 newton meters, sorry. But we'll torque them up when we go to line up, but we'll just nip them up for now, and that just stops the shims falling out. And once it's all aligned, you can then knock these tabs down to prevent this plate from moving. So then it's just that there with that lock and washer, and we'll give that a whiz bang way up with the old ugga-dugga-dugga. And I'll put you down because we'll torque this one up for now, just so I know it's torqued up. And that is 54 newton meters. Set the torque wrench up. Go. And then obviously you've got the lock tabs here as well, so when you do finally set it up, you can then bend the lock tabs over. Not sure if I'll bend these over or just keep them like that, because obviously being a race car we'll be making a lot of alignment changes, so I might just leave them like that and then just make sure we check all the nuts after each race. I just noticed something. These anti-roll bar Powerflex Black Series bushers are absolutely shagged. I had one when I went testing, and I come back and checked the car over and found out I had one already gone. So I ordered another set and then just replaced the faulty one, and then I added these washers as well, just so that I can space the roll bar so that was nice and square, but it don't look like it's helped, so I'll need to replace them again at some point, and might have to buy the rose jointed, like they have at the front, the rose jointed ends, and then I've got no bushes to wipe out in the roll bar. Right, anyway, digressing. Next one is going to be the turret plate. So again, I'll get all the bits sorted and lined up for that, and then we'll get that measured and drilled and get that fitted. Right, so this is the turret plate, so I'm just going to fit that up in there for now, and then we'll fit the two bottom bolts. And fit the two top bolts, and it's got a nut on the back. And all you do is get a lever bar in there, and you've got to push that up as far as that will go, and just nip up the bolts. Right, so that's now in position. So now you want to get yourself a nice sharp 10mm drill bit, and then you need to drill 1, 2, 3. Right, this middle one, because there's a gap of about an inch and a half between the turret and the subframe, you need to make sure that your drill is nice and level when you drill it. Now I've given it a little bit of a wiggle just to open the front and rear holes out a little bit more, so give me a little bit of leeway. I'm just going to get a hairline and just blow off all the swarf. Now we can undo the plate. One thing I did forget to mention is these seals you can now push back. All it is a dust seal, but I just noticed that as I was drilling that plate out. So yeah, that's all nice now. So we've got our hole here, just make sure there's no burrs behind it. There don't seem to be, so I've cut that quite nicely. And all I do is this is the spacer that goes in between that plate there. Hopefully. We'll fit that on there, and then we can fit our turret plate back on. And we can get the middle bolt in as well now. You might need to fine angle this a little bit. I just leave everything loose.
What happened here?
I don't know when it
Right, so that's all tightened up. No torque settings, but just use your common sense. The only thing we need to do is just put this in here tweak that up. And that holds. There need to be a sensor in place, but we won't clip that in just yet, so we'll get a shock tower on. Right, next to go on is this billet aluminium piece that holds the top of the shock absorber in. Just take the bolt out of it. It is directional. You do write on them to say that they're up, but you need this bit to be at the highest point. And there's 3 bolts that hold it in place. And again, you want that as high as possible. There's no torque settings for them bolts, but just be mindful that's a stainless steel screw going into an aluminium thread. So, and the next thing is look at the bottom of the shock in place. Okay. Right, so I've wound the adjuster collars as far down as I dare to aid getting it in. Now I'm going to position this so it's pointing towards the rear of the vehicle, so if we need to make any adjustments while it's on the car, we don't have to take the wheel off, we can just crawl underneath at the back and just turn the knob, as to say. Just fit that in. And then we've got to try and get that in there somehow. You can see how far off it is. The platform doesn't even go underneath so I think what we'll do we'll just try and wind that down a bit more. Let's come off the threads now. Let's zoom you out a bit. Get more of a so we're just winding that collar all the way down, and that will nearly go in, still not quite. I bet Mike could be shrieking in his sleep. Watch me do this to his billet alloy parts. But what needs must. All that. Right, so we've got another bolt to go through there, and in between the top of the shock, so in between the top of the shock and the alloy billet bit, he supplies these little washers, and that just stops the bush wearing away at the billet alloy bit. So that's what I'm trying to fit, if you're wondering. Always away.
I'm ready to go in, Coach. Just give me a chance. I know there's a lot riding on it, but...
Let's take some patience. Right, they're in. Both of them little shim things are in. They don't actually stop the shock. You'll have a little bit of movement left or right, but it's just purely to stop the bush, the metal insert the bush rubbing up against the aluminium top shock mount. Well, just lost my light. So yeah, just going to tighten these bolts up again. No torque settings. So I'm just going to do it by feel. These top ones here I've torqued down to about 45 newton meters, and they feel quite nice. Right, this nut here was 54 newton meters, so I think that's the same size nut as that. So I'm going to tighten these two mounts up here to 54 newton meters and see how that feels. Right, I've got some light again now. So as I was saying, I'm going to torque bottom and top shock mount to 54 newton meters. Yeah, that feels nice. Feels good. And that is that. And that one feels a lot better than the other side. The other side there's a little bit of movement side to side. That one feels you can't actually move it side to side. So yeah, that is the long and short of it. So we've just got to put our cable up, and this is the routing that Mike has suggested. He sent me a picture. Bloody tight to get in there. There we go. So yeah, that's the Mike, or the route that Mike suggests. So I think the only thing we need to do now is just wind a little bit of preload on the spring. Just enough so that we can get the bottom lock collar on, and then once the subframe's in and we get the wheels on, and then we can then play around with the height and see how far up and down it needs to go. I would like to have a set of corner scales so I can do it properly, but we're just going to be using, I'm going to put literally my body weight into the driver's side, and then we'll set it up by measurements, and that should give us roughly the right sort of direction we need to go in, really. Right, so that is it. So just to recap: bottom arm, the pivot, the top shock tower mounting bracket, the top shock mounting itself, and the shock. That is it. It's pretty much the same on all four corners, apart from the front ones. They have an extra spacer here. I don't know if you can see that. There's another hole here, and there's a spacer that comes out, and that's what the brake line attaches to. And obviously the shocks are marked front and rear, I guess because the spring loadings are slightly higher on the rear than what they are the front, because the engine's at the front, or at the rear, sorry. So that is it. I'm going to have a tidy up, and I'm going to go home and hopefully edit this video for your enjoyment. So we'll catch you in the next one, where hopefully we can take the dash out and get the heater pipes out and get this whole assembly back up to where it needs to be. Right, I thought you'd want to see the weight saving to swapping the suspension out. So I've got obviously all the stuff that we've taken off, and I've got a complete unit built up here, so it should be quite accurate. Now I haven't put it on the scales yet, so we'll find out. So it's 0 to 0, and then we can stick the arm on, stick the shock on, stick the hydrogas sphere on, and the backing plate. So that's all on there, and that's 6.78 kilos. So let's say 6.8 kilos. And then this whole complete unit. On there. Oh. So that's 8 kilos. So I've increased the weight by over 1.2 kilos per corner. So 4.8 kilos in total. So the idea to lose weight, I've actually gained weight. Right, I better go on a diet.